Hi, and welcome to How'd You Do That? Today I have a very special guest, Dr. Brooke Goldner. Dr. Goldner is a board certified physician and the creator of Hyper-nourishing Protocol for Lupus Reversal. She is the author of 3 best-selling books, Goodbye Lupus, Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, and Green Smoothie Recipes to Kickstart Your Health and Healing. Dr. Goldner has been featured in many documentaries, at radio shows, podcasts, and magazines. Welcome, Dr. Goldner. Thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
That's wonderful. That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to your current path?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's.
It's a loaded question, double question. Sorry.
Yeah, that's not a short answer. Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm a medical doctor, and that's, and I'm a best-selling author and all those things, but that was never it wasn't fully my life plan. The first hurdle I actually had was survival. So before I was ever a doctor, I was a patient, and I started getting sick around 14. I started getting migraines. And then by 16, I was having problems like getting a rash across my face, joint pain that would move throughout my body, episodes of fatigue, migraines that would last for days to a week at a time with vomiting. It was really, really hard, but it was kind of one thing at a time, where I could kind of excuse each thing. Maybe my joints hurt because of volleyball practice, or, maybe I got a rash because I'm a teenager, or, it was just, maybe it's acne, or it was just, they would kind of come intermittently, and I wasn't sure what it was. But one day I was kind of covering the rash, because I was a teenager, I was 16, so if I saw it, I would cover it up. And then one day I went swimming with my friend all day. And when we got back, I had this terrible migraine and I threw up. And then when I came out, the rash was super bright on my face. And my dad went, "What is that?" I don't know. It's been coming and going. And so he called the doctor. And, I'd been going to my doctor for the separate complaints, but no one had put it together. Right. And when I went to the doctor and she saw all of it combined at one time, then she was able to say, "Okay, wait a minute. I think you have lupus." And then my mom said she got mad because they hadn't run the test yet. And how dare you say my daughter has a disease? But she was right. And it wasn't just an understanding that I had a disease that's an autoimmune disease, and that can cause arthritis and fatigue and all those things I've been experiencing, but it also is a disease that can cause organ damage. And what they discovered while I was still in the hospital was that my tests were showing that I was in kidney failure. Which was really shocking. And so within days of going to the hospital, I think it was the next day or the day after that, I don't remember because I had a migraine, I went in and had to get a kidney biopsy. So I went from, a rash and a headache to hospital to surgery within a few days. And I'll never forget sitting in the nephrologist's office with my mother and my grandmother, and him delivering the news that your kidneys are in such severe, I was in stage 4 membranoproliferative nephritis, which is the most aggressive kind of kidney attack. And very, not stage 5 is you're getting on the transplant list, right? So very late stage. And he told me, with the current medicines that we have now, you're probably going to be in kidney failure or dead within 6 months.
Oh no. Which
I love that man. He shoots from the hip, he tells you exactly how it is. Very, very scary, especially for my family. I don't even remember processing all of it. It was kind of, it was just a lot of stuff coming at me. My grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. And so my grandparents came here when my mom was small, and her brother, to start a new life as refugees after the war.
Right.
So, I had everything. I was the firstborn in America. And I was going to get to have all the things. My grandparents had, elementary school educations, and I was going to be a doctor or something. I was, all that stuff. And then here I was at 16 being told I could die. And I never in my life saw my grandmother cry. Ever. She was so tough. But that night she was on her knees crying to God to take her life and spare mine. She was inconsolable. And it was really scary for me. I was more scared seeing her condition than hearing mine. And so what the doctor told us, though, it wasn't that he gave us no hope, but he was trying to help us understand that the medicines that they had at their disposal, which this is a while ago, this is almost 30 years ago now, that they weren't going to be enough, but that there were some experimental medicines I could consider. He was setting me up for that, that they were considering using chemotherapy to shut down the immune system in people with lupus, because in chemotherapy, you use it for cancer, right?
Right.
But the side effect that is often deadly to people with cancer is that it shuts down the immune system. And so here's a person with cancer dies of an infection because of the chemo, right? So it'd be scary. So they thought, what if we do it on purpose? Like when you reboot your computer, maybe we can reboot the immune system. We'll give them so much chemo that the immune system shuts down. And then maybe when it reboots, it'll work again, because it worked for the first 16 years. So, so that was the idea. And we signed up because what other option was there? So I was taking 7 different kinds of medicine by mouth, between the high dose steroids and then pills to suppress my hormones, because the chemo could make me sterile, and like I was taking so many pills every day, and then I had to take like 3 different pills to help me with the side effects of the steroids. Right. And so it was, it was a lot. And then on top of that, I was getting the chemotherapy, and they didn't know how much to give me because it was experimental. So nowadays, most people get it for maybe a couple months, but I had it for 2 years. Wow. Because they didn't know. And every time they tried to stop it, because it would work, they would, as the immune system started to come down, my lupus antibodies would get better and my symptoms were better. And then they would, maybe prolong it, maybe give me a few extra weeks. And then the numbers would come back up. My kidney function would go down. And then, so I was kind of stuck with it. And that was my life from 16 to 18, was dealing with the illness and the medicines, but also then becoming a person, like becoming an adult. And I credit my family. People give me too much credit that I was just born to be all positive and all that stuff. I mean, yes, there's something to that, but most of my personality is like my grandmother, super chatty and optimistic. But they really pushed me that this is a thing you have to deal with. This is not who you are. Right. So how are we going to do it? You have chemo on Friday, but you have an exam on Monday. Oh. So when are you going to study? How are you going to do it? Because I still needed to get all A's, because I wanted to go to Carnegie Mellon, which was like a great university, and all that stuff. So it was like, they helped me keep things compartmentalized. And I also always felt very lucky, which helped me survive it. My grandparents, they suffered. Right. Having a disease and taking medicines, it sucked. I'm not going to say that was good, but I always still felt lucky because I was free. I wasn't in a prison camp. Right. I wasn't having family members murdered. I had a thing, and I had good doctors, and I had, so I feel like the ability to still focus on my passion and my purpose and my obsession with my gratitude for how lucky I still was are what really fueled me through the process. And I think also helped me respond better to medicines, because what I've found in my practice and my career is that people who are optimistic and positive, even through the hardships, they get better faster than people who are depressed, and that I have to help them with the depression and the disease in order to get a full recovery. So that was, that was how it was. And actually the cool thing was, at the end of my last chemotherapy session was 2 weeks before my first day of college. And I got a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon. So it was, that's great. The most optimistic time of my life, like finishing chemo, which I did not like. And then moving forward, it was really just poetic. And actually I minored in poetry, biology and creative writing. Poetry helped me cope with chemo. It did. I was able to maintain what they called a remission at that time. When they stopped the chemo, I was in remission. And remission means, it doesn't mean you're cured. Remission means, especially with autoimmune, you're not currently dying from this disease, but you still have it. So, people ask me a lot about, like, what about remission versus reversal of diseases? If you took, I had to get blood tests every month because I was a scary patient for them. And even when they said I was in remission, first of all, I still took medicine. Second of all, and I was still on the steroids for a while, and I still had to take, when I had joint pain, I took my pain medicine. When I had migraines, I took my migraine medicine. I was still taking medicine, but my kidneys were stable. I still had protein in my urine, which is a sign of kidneys not functioning properly. They said, you'll always have protein in your urine because you almost died from that. But I was stable, and they were working great. I had to stop the chemo. Great. So that's what remission was. My labs still showed lupus. And for people who know the labs, like positive ANA, double-stranded DNA, low complement levels, all those things, I still had all of that, but I was stable. And that was considered remission. And I was thrilled. Like, that was great. Right. And I maintained remission through college. And I was always, but I maintained the mindset of nobody knows how much time we have. I'm going to excel. I'm going to just go for everything. So for example, I wanted to do genetic research. Usually they don't let you do research till you're a junior. Well, I started going to the labs the summer after my freshman year, knocking on doors, and they would say, no, you have to be a junior. And I just wouldn't leave until somebody gave me a job. And I started doing genetic research in my sophomore year. And I got honors I graduated with honors for the genetic research I did there. But I was always kind of like, I was always pushing, but I loved it. I loved work. I loved science. So that was, I'm a nerd through and through. Like, I just I love science. And I love studying, and especially like studying without chemo. It was just fun. But I was actually able to maintain remission through college. But then I decided to go to medical school, which, if you're told by your doctor to always get enough sleep and avoid stress, it's not really the optimal path. Right. And I actually did get sick again in medical school. I was working 100 hours a week. Back then, there wasn't the laws we have now. Now there's a law saying no more than 80 hours a week, which is still a lot. But 100 hours a week, I was doing multiple online overnight calls, all that kind of stuff. High stress, because now like they expect you to know everything. Right. What they show on TV, it's like more intense than that. I mean, they're quizzing you and you got to know it. And back then we didn't have these things, these little computers in our pocket. Right. So we only had like, I don't know if you remember the med students of old with like 8 books in their pockets. Right. Yep. You had to know it or have it in your pocket, so it was super high stress. And I ended up getting sick again. I started getting blood clots. I had mini strokes. And so I ended up back at the hospital, and they told me that the lupus was back in a different way. Kidneys were stable still, but now there's a new antibody called an anti-cardiolipin antibody, which is creating blood clots. And if you don't take blood thinners for the rest of your life, you're going to have a major stroke. Right. If you take blood thinners, if you hit your head, you can also have a stroke. So it was okay. So back on the tightrope of dealing with disease and medicines versus medicine benefit versus risks and all that stuff, which is chronic disease basically if you're doing it the traditional way. Right. Again, my doctor saved my life, which is why I am a doctor. They are amazing people. They saved my life over and over again, using what they knew, which was medicine. Right. And so they decided I would do better with injectable medicine. So every day I injected myself in the belly with my blood thinners, and I finished medical school. And while I did cry for a couple of weeks because I was more scared at that point than I was when I was younger. One, I think I understood my disease better. When I was sick as a kid, there was no internet yet. Right. Know my age. We didn't have any internet. There was no Google. So I only knew what my doctors told me or what I was willing to go read in a book. My mom gave me a book on lupus. I quit a couple chapters and it was depressing and horrifying. I was like, no, thank you. That's not my story. I'll write my own story. I didn't know it'd be a bestseller, but I did write my own story. But so I didn't know as much. But when I was in medical school, I was now trained and I knew exactly what I had. Right. And the mini stroke was terrifying because even though I fully recovered, my brain has always been my only tool that I relied on. I am not an athlete. I know I've been on fitness covers. I can pick up something heavy and put it down. But I don't have any hope of being an athlete. If you throw a ball at me, I'm more likely to hit it with my head or face than I am to catch it. There was no other path for me besides being a nerd and doing this kind of work. So it terrified me because I had thought, okay, I can be a doctor with lupus. And even if I'm in a wheelchair, I can still be a doctor. But if I lose this, I got nothing. So I was really scared. Right. And that took me, I leaned on my friends and family for support to process and mourn. I think every time you get a diagnosis, you got to mourn and what you thought you were going to have, your new life, all that. But ultimately I came back to the place of gratitude that it didn't kill me yet. There's still a medicine that can help me. I'm a couple months away from graduating. I got my first choice residency at Harvard UCLA, nothing stopping me. And awesome. Maybe my life's shorter than other people. But how many people get to live their dream?
That's so true.
And that's always what's driven me forward. It's like, okay, so I have to do what everyone else does, but with joint pain.
Right,
But
right.
so what? I can still make my life what I want. And so that's always been my fuel, and that's always pushed me forward. And that's when it all changed. And that's when, the reason you're even talking to me today is not because of that, but because of what happened afterwards. And it's my story. I'm still emotional about it.
Oh.
But I'm emotional about the part that comes next, which is when I met my husband to be. And I was right after the whole blood clot situation. I'm injecting myself. I'm excited though. I'm back in my normal, chatty, excited, optimistic mindset. And we fell in love quickly, and he wanted to marry me within a week. We were in the first month of dating. We were planning. It was like,
oh wow,
this is it. Lock it in. We just watched. So this is my final answer. Lock it in. And then I had to tell him I have this disease that I hadn't really mentioned much of, because it's not really stuff I like to sit and chat about. I wasn't hiding it, but it wasn't like, hey, I'd rather talk about music than lupus.
Right.
But when you're talking about marriage, I was like, listen, I can never have children. I was told if I ever try to have children, it'll kill me. I'm going to become disabled, probably at a young age. You're probably going to have to take care of me, and I'm not going to live that long. So this is not exactly like the response to a marriage proposal that a 28-year-old man probably wants to hear.
Right.
But to his credit, it didn't stop him for a minute. He just said, I'd rather have a short life with you than a lifetime with anybody else. So let's do it. And I was like, let's do it. Okay. So, and I've talked to so many people. I was just talking to someone. I have a rapid recovery program where people can talk to me every single day for 4 weeks, so I can help them actually successfully reverse their disease. And the issue the person was talking to me about is she feels like it's unfair to her partner to stay with him or marry him if she's sick. And I said to her, don't you dare tell somebody else who they're allowed to love.
Exactly.
You deserve love as much as everybody else. And if I hadn't allowed my husband to love me, I wouldn't even be here right now. So how many people get married and then get sick? That's why you have to vow for better or for worse sickness and health. Because guess what? Whatever health they're in their 20s or 30s when they married you probably is not going to be where they are in another 10 years.
Exactly.
So just as anyone who's thinking about that, like, why would he marry this poor person? But that's what actually changed everything, not just his love, which is awesome, but I decided to change my lifestyle because we were going to basically elope to Hawaii. It was just our 3 best friends and our parents, his sister, my grandparents. That's it. We just wanted people there who were going to cry with us. We both cry this much. We're very emotional. And I wanted to get fit for the wedding because I was on the best diet at the time to be sick and overweight. It's called hospital food.
Right.
Horrible. It's really good for hospital business. You eat that stuff, you'll end up in the hospital at some point. All right. So, but we were going to be in Maui. I wanted to wear a strapless mermaid dress and all this. Nice. And so, and the white coat covers everything. I was like, so I was overweight. And my husband is famous for his scientific understanding of metabolism and rapid fat loss. He has his own best-selling book, Miracle Metabolism. It's all about that. And so I asked him to train me, and he changed my diet. I was vegetarian, but I was very unhealthy vegetarian. We lived in Pittsburgh. If you ordered a salad in Pittsburgh at the time, they put French fries and ranch dressing on it in the hospital. In the hospital. Oh yeah.
Bad.
Bad. Yeah.
Very bad.
I ate eggs every day, cheese every day, all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, if you keep eating all that saturated fat, you're never gonna lose weight. We need to get you much more nourished than this. And so he changed my diet. And what happened was in 3 months, I had lost over 20 pounds. I went from a size 11 to a size 3, which was fabulous. Wow. But also I, for the first time since I'd been a child, had no joint pain. I had no migraines. I had tons of energy. And I was in my intern year now where I was working 30-hour shifts multiple days a week. And my attending physician was scared why I had so much energy compared to the other doctors. He actually thought, this is the chairman of my department, he was worried about me because I wasn't appropriately depressed and tired like everyone else.
Oh no.
Like maybe I was manic. I'm like, I'm not manic. This is my personality. Like I just really grateful and really happy. And I even said to him, I said, I chose this life. I'm an intern because I chose this. And how many
Right.
people get to be a doctor? I'm so proud of myself and I'm so happy. And he was like, all right. But those same people ended up leaning on me heavy. I had an attending who had me even as a resident take over her unit while she had surgery. I had which was, they had to get special permission. I was the first solo chief resident because there used to be two. I did the job of two people. So they learned to love it. At the time, they're like, is she all right? She's way too happy. But what happened was at the 3-month mark, I got my labs drawn, which normally would have been every month, but my rheumatologist retired. I got a new rheumatologist, whatever. And at the 3-month mark, the new doctor ran all my labs and they didn't show lupus. Oh. Which is not supposed to happen. I'd had lupus now for 12 straight years. Wow. With every monthly test, every 12 years of monthly tests, every month positive. And now suddenly no lupus markers, ANA, dsDNA, everything gone. No protein in my urine, normal kidney function. Wow. And the blood clot antibodies were like on the high end of normal, where you normally wouldn't treat someone, but someone who's had many strokes, you would. So they thought it was a mistake. And they said, enjoy your wedding, come back, we'll retest it. I went for the wedding, came back, retested, the blood clot antibodies were gone. I also have had high cholesterol since I was in my 20s, which my doctor said was genetic, had nothing to do with all the cheese I ate, normal cholesterol. And so that was, by the way, 15 years ago. And in the past 15 years, I have never had a relapse of lupus, symptoms or labs. I've had 2 healthy children. I'm in my 40s now. And rather than being disabled, when I turned 40, I got to be on the cover of a fitness magazine. Now, granted, it was Fit Over 40, which is basically you look good for your age. But how cool is that? So my life completely changed, really, because I changed my diet. Sometimes people said it was love that healed me. It's a beautiful idea, but I loved him for 1.5 years before I changed my diet, and I still had lupus. But then within 3 months of changing my diet, it was gone. And so after that happened, especially after I didn't realize right away what happened. I thought maybe it was remission because I've been trained as a doctor that I have an incurable disease. I always had this disease, even though my labs are negative and I have no symptoms, I have a disease. Like, it's very hard to let go of your training. But after I had my first son and there was no lupus and all my baby weight was gone, I was back in my size. At that point, it was size 2 jeans within 9 days of giving birth. We realized my body was not functioning like a normal body, and it definitely wasn't functioning like a sick body. And we realized that we had actually done something that had reversed my illness. And so my husband also went to Carnegie Mellon. He also has a master's degree in exercise science and health promotion. And we went back to cellular biology to look at what happened. What could I possibly have stopped eating that had been promoting illness? And what did I eat that could have actually repaired my cells and gotten my immune system to function properly again after 12 years of dysfunction? And we realized we'd accidentally created the most anti-inflammatory diet on the planet. And we still didn't release it because we're scientists. And I hate when people come out and go, I ate this and I'm better, so eat what I ate. And they don't even know what parts helped them or which part, what did they heal in spite of, you know? So then we went into a testing phase, and it was only when it was 100% reproducible that everyone who ate what I told them to eat got those same results did we go public with it. So now it's been over a decade that's been my own. I was medical director at a nonprofit in California. My original dream was to treat the homeless, which I did for 5 years as a medical director out there. But I've been devoted completely to disease reversal now for many, many years. And that's why people know me now, is I've actually helped thousands of people all over the world successfully reverse not just lupus, but rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, mixed connective tissue disease, scleroderma, Sjogren's, and also other things like diabetes, heart failure, because what I teach them is how to nourish their cells to stimulate cellular repair and remove inflammation. And guess what? When you do that, it turns out your cells actually know how to fix themselves, and you don't need us to get in the way with our white coats and our prescribing pads. Your body actually knows how to fix itself. So I'm not telling people stop your meds today. That could be deadly. Medicines are helpful. They saved my life. But if you can nourish, or what I call hyper-nourish yourself properly, your cells can actually repair themselves, and you can get your health back even after decades of illness. So that is the shortest version I can give you of what happened to me and why I got invited to talk to you today.
That is amazing. So can you give us a little bit more information about what steps you took in healing yourself from lupus? I mean, you know, if you'd like to share something.
Absolutely. So actually there's 6 steps to reversing disease with supermarket foods. And that's what Goodbye Lupus is. When I wrote Goodbye Lupus, that was in 2015. And I didn't expect that to be a bestseller. Nobody knew who I was then. You know, if anybody knew me, it's because their friend told them about me. You know, I was still working as a nonprofit and all that stuff. Oh no, I had just finished a nonprofit. I was home with my second kid, but yeah, my husband was the famous one.
Okay.
He would be asked to speak somewhere and then he'd say, do you know my wife? She's amazing. And then he'd bring me along and then they loved me. So yeah, he's my biggest fan and always pushed me into the spotlight before himself. But I wrote the book because whenever I did speak on stage, someone would say, man, I wish somebody so-and-so was here to see that. Do you have a book? So I thought, okay, I'll write them. So if someone ever asked me that, I'll hand them one. And then what happened was I had put it as a pre-order on Amazon. The only reason I did that is because if you put it as a pre-order, it gives you a deadline. So I made the deadline. I was like, because if I don't have a deadline, I'm going to get distracted. So I gave myself a deadline. And when I went to upload the book, it was already a bestseller. And I was like, who's buying my book? What the heck's going on? So it's been a bestseller ever since. And Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, I released last year, was a bestseller the first day. So I'm really, I love that because it means people are healing and that's what they tell me. But I published that so everybody would have this information. I think that the information you need to heal, everyone should have it. It's also why I teach my classes for free every couple of months to make sure it's disseminated. So in Goodbye Lupus, I give, and in my classes, I give like the science and the why. But if you want just the cliff notes, the steps are: number 1, stop getting sicker.
Okay.
Right? I call it, don't do the Paula Abdul. I love Paula Abdul. I was born in the 70s, like, so in the 80s.
Me too.
Paula Abdul, right? But you know our song that's like 2 steps forward, I take 2 that. Like, don't do that, right? If you want to get better, stop getting sicker. So if you're going backwards, you're eating things that actually create inflammation and trigger the expression of genes for disease. So we all have genes for disease, but you can turn them on and off, right? So the foods that do that are, number 1, animal products. You know, we were really shocked to find that all animal products really push disease, not just the ones with saturated fat, like all the cheese and the eggs I was eating, but also other animal products, not only dramatically increase inflammation, but increase cancer rates, increase your risk of dying from all causes. There was a study done at Harvard where they found that people who eat higher meat have a 50% increase in all causes of mortality.
Wow.
What? Right? So what we found in our research at cellular biology, looking at what's causing inflammation that's triggering the immune system to dysfunction, it turns out that's causing disease, whatever you have. So any kind of animal products, people don't like that fact, but it's true. All right. And especially dairy. People get really upset about the dairy. Dairy is one of the worst offenders in terms of illness. And then oils, you know, all the different kinds of oils that people eat, except like omega-3 oils, like flax oil. All the other ones actually increase the inflammatory part of your immune system through omega-6 fatty acids. So you need omega-6 fatty acids to have an inflammatory immune system. That's the immune system that wakes up when you get an infection or something. But you don't want that on all the time. You want that to come up when you want it, and then you want an anti-inflammatory immune system. Well, if you're overdosing omega-6 from animal products and from oils, you're going to have too much inflammation. And then, so those are all going to be things that are going to create inflammation. And then processed foods, which are high in things like sugar and oils and other stuff, also trigger inflammation. And so the problem is that people nowadays are getting their entire diets out of that realm, the get sicker realm. And this is how we've created chronic disease, by the way, is we eat things that create inflammation. We don't eat things that eliminate it. And so what happens? More inflammation, more genes turn on for disease, and then more pills and more pills. And that seems like what everybody goes through in our society, right? Versus what happened to me is like sicker, healthy, right? Which is what can happen. So I really believe we've created chronic illness, because the way you get rid of it is the foods that get you healthy. Step 2, get healthy, is vegetables, raw vegetables especially, which, you know, who does that, right? And then omega-3 fatty acids like flax and chia seeds or flaxseed oil, and high water intake. Most people today, if they're drinking, it's got caffeine in it or sugar, right? If you're dehydrated, the chemical reactions that you need to take place don't happen to release inflammation. Omega-3s are the birthplace of your anti-inflammatory immune system. They also raise your metabolic rate, which helps with fat loss and muscle building and all that.
Okay.
And so, and then, you know, you've got the raw vegetables that have the vitamins and minerals and the antioxidants and phytonutrients. Those are the ingredients your cells use to fix themselves.
Right.
You have damage to a cell, it can't repair itself without the right tools.
Mm-hmm.
So most people are doing, they're not even doing the Paula Abdul. They're doing what's that dance where you just put one foot behind the other? The 180, what was that called?
I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Cabbage Patch?
I think so. It's been a while. It's been a long time. I know what you're talking about.
That's most everyone, right?
Right.
So it turns out your cells know what to do. If you stop getting sicker, I'd rather you go from only backwards to the Paula Abdul. Eat some, you know, have a green smoothie and put in your greens and your omega-3s and your water, right? Then even if you have the cheeseburger, at least you have some ability to repair yourself versus what you ultimately wanted to go, which is to minimize or eliminate the things that make you sicker and really embrace those healing things as part of your life. And when people do that, they get healthier every time. It's not one of those things where some people get better doing this, but other people really do better on like the carnivore diet. No. Right. Everybody gets better when they do this, especially you have to do it correctly, but it is amazing that it turns out that we all are pretty much the same on a cellular level. And our cells need and require the same things. And when we provide it, our health goes up.
That's awesome. And does that also include, do you endorse a lot of fruit too in the diet during this process that you endorse?
No, actually I don't. Yeah, I know. A lot of people, way too much credit to fruit. Listen, all of my recommendations are results based.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of theories out there, especially in the nutrition and health world. And I find it to be actually really dangerous.
Okay.
Right? Because every theory can be proven wrong, especially because humans created them. And humans are extremely fallible. Everybody likes to be right, but it turns out most of us are wrong a lot. And if we can just embrace that, we're all happier, really. So I don't ever teach something based off of a theory I have. I find that disrespectful to people. As a former patient and as a healthcare provider, I only teach results. So what we found in the past decade, more than a decade of doing disease reversal, is that when people, listen, fruits are perfectly healthy. If you are a healthy person and you love fruit, enjoy your fruit. No problem there. But specifically for rapid reversal of disease, what we found is that when people have more than 25% of their diet come from fruit, it slows down the recovery process. I don't know why. I just know that it happens. I have theories why, not going to bother you with them. But when I first did this myself, I did it with no fruit. First of all, I actually don't like it. I know I'm weird. I'm weird. I don't like sweet things. I don't like sweet things. I like salty, savory. From my understanding, I have too many sweet receptors on my tongue, so I easily feel nauseated by sweet things. I don't like it. So I'm someone that naturally, I'm not a sweet person. Ask my mother. Like even as a kid, I would eat whole green peppers. Like other people would eat an apple.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just don't really like fruit that much. I put them in my green smoothies, but I don't eat them. So when I did this, I didn't do it with any fruit. Plus, my husband was helping me with fat loss, and fat loss works faster without the fruit when you're eating tons of vegetables and all that stuff. So I did it with, and I was eating over a pound of vegetables a day, raw vegetables a day, broccoli and cauliflower, the super high nutrient, which is the cruciferous vegetables, super high nutrient. So I did it with none. So then when I first started testing this with people, I tried to make them do that. And it turns out people really didn't like it. They're like, oh, I need my fruit, big sad tears, and okay. When I'm doing I'm known for something called rapid disease reversal. So rapid recovery is what we call it. And in rapid recovery, I have people for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, 4 weeks one-on-one or 6 weeks in my group, where we want them to get better as quickly as possible. So what I have them do is only eat the foods that encourage healing. So instead of adding those 3 components I told you about to your diet, that is your diet, right? When I first started experimenting with it, I was doing like vegetables, omega-3s and water. I was having a lot of people that were not doing it. So then we started to experiment. How much fruit can somebody add without disrupting the speed of recovery? And what we found is that if they were having like a few cups a day and it was 25% of their diet, they had really good results. But if it was more than that, for some reason, they didn't get that rapid recovery. So who knows why? I'm sure some of you are having thoughts like maybe it's the sugar, maybe it's that. I don't know. What I do know is that once you're healthy, eat as much fruit as you want. Like I said, I'm still not a big fruit person, although I do have smoothies now instead of eating all the food and there's fruit in there. but I've helped many people with their recovery. And once their health is back, eat as much fruit as you want. You can add back other cooked foods. It's no big deal. But for that rapid reversal process, for some reason, the fruit slows it down. So actually, yeah, I keep to a minimum. I focus on filling the belly with the vitamins and minerals you get from vegetables. Think of it this way. If you look at the content of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients in vegetables, specifically cruciferous vegetables, nothing beats it. Like when people say, oh, you should eat blueberries to get all these different nutrients, red cabbage beats the pants off of blueberries. It has everything the blueberries have plus more. In fact, the only food ever been shown to be cancer fighting is cruciferous vegetables. So, you know, we really that's why we call it hyper-nourishing. We oversupply you with the highest nutrient food possible to speed you to the finish line. And then you can add those back. Now, if you're not super sick right now, don't worry about it.
Right.
I mean, add the foods I told you about, have your fruit, other stuff. It's no big deal. But for those who are really trying to speed up their recovery, yeah, fruit, I keep minimal.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, I know you've talked a lot about the food and a lot more about the vegetables. Is it okay then to juice or to make smoothies instead of eating them? Like, what do you find a difference?
Absolutely. So yes to smoothies, not to the juices. You know, juice is really a processed food. You are taking the liquid, you're squeezing out the liquid and you're throwing away the rest, right?
Okay.
No, it doesn't cause inflammation like the processed foods you buy in the store. So if somebody wants to have a vegetable juice, that's fine. I don't mark them off. It doesn't count towards the food they have to eat that day.
Okay.
I want them to eat whole vegetables, but I use smoothies a lot. Actually, we have a website, smoothieshred.com. We teach the smoothie solution because it turns out people who've never liked vegetables, never eaten vegetables, have a hard time suddenly eating like a pound and a half of greens a day. And they just aren't interested. So what we found is smoothies are a way that we can get all people, even people addicted to fast food, to add what they're missing. Because adding, as much as I joke about the Paula Abdul, one day she's going to catch on to that. As much as I joke about that, I would rather people start adding what they're missing. And I find that people still start getting benefits when they add what they're missing. So I'll say, fine, you're addicted to your junk food. Let's make a green smoothie. Let's fill it up with the dark leafy vegetables, kale and spinach, stuff like that. Add a handful of flax and chia. Add in that little bit of fruit to make it taste good. I call it the spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down. Put water in it. And now if you just drink that blender by the end of the day, eat your food, drink, then by the end of the day, you have now nourished yourself with the vegetables, water, omega-3s. And even if you're still eating other crap, you're getting some benefit. Plus you'll tend to eat less of that. We call it crowding out.
Right.
So smoothies are fantastic. Most people adore them because it tastes like fruit and it's easy to get in. And it also creates glorious bowel movements. And many people suffer from constipation and it's very nice to be able, I mean, there's smiles that I see on people's faces who have their first good bowel movements after. I have one lady who's 80 years old who just started seeing me and she's very stern. She's kind of a stern, stoic kind of face. And I saw her at the follow-up and she was smiling. She said, I have gone to the bathroom every day. It turned out she was just constipated. She wasn't stern. First time in 80 years.
That's crazy.
Her husband's like, who's this woman? Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, it's interesting what makes people happy. I mean, obviously, I guess a good bowel movement does the trick.
It does it for everybody. There's nobody I've ever met who's not happy about a good bowel movement.
Oh, that's funny.
You're like, I don't even know where to go with that.
I know. Like, where do I go from here now? How do I digress now?
Let's not digress. Let's dive right in. Did I just flush this interview? Is that?
It flushed down pretty quick. No, I'm kidding. So what types of food should people with autoimmune diseases stay away from? I know you mentioned about the oils, and I know you mentioned a few other things. Like, I know the fatty foods. I get it, that the dairy. Is there anything in particular that makes it worse, or is it just in general, like the processed foods and
all of
so
those
on?
make it worse. So, you know, I take a very holistic approach to this because as I was telling you my story, I was very careful to also show you how the emotional parts of it have an effect, right?
Right.
Because that is what I've seen. The reason I originally specialized in psychiatry, you know, when I was doing genetic research, I thought I was going to go into rheumatology, something else. But when I was in medical school, I saw how the people that I saw in the hospital who were depressed, they never got better. They would have something as simple as an infection in their foot and just not get better. And then people with cancer are having miracles, who are surrounded by families and happy and, you know, feel grateful and all that stuff. And so I realized that if I really want to change the course of people's health, maybe I won't find the cure for lupus, because I thought maybe with my research I would, and I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. So maybe I won't find the cure for lupus, but maybe I can teach people how to live amazing lives, even with chronic disease. And if I can teach them purpose and passion and gratitude, then people can have great lives no matter what their diagnosis is. So I think that's a very important part of it. And most people I see with autoimmune disease have depression, anxiety, trauma. People with trauma can have up to a 60% higher rate of autoimmune disease. People who've experienced great loss, mourning, being in mourning raises your inflammation markers. So we have all that we have to deal with. Inflammation coming in, because all of those kinds of stressors disrupt our cortisol levels and create inflammation in the body. And then on top of that, you're getting inflammation from breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. Your disease is going to get worse. And that is why these autoimmune diseases, what we say in medical lingo, is they're chronic, meaning they don't go away, and progressive, meaning they get worse over time. But in my practice, those things go away, but I really do address it holistically. Like even in my rapid recovery programs, yes, I'm watching their diet every day, but we just finished, right before I came on here, we just finished a 2-hour meeting in the group where the majority of the group discussion was on their motivation, self-sabotage, happiness levels, self-care.
Okay.
Right? Because the diet, listen, it's simple, but not easy. Right? Eat a lot of vegetables, eat a lot of omega-3s, drink a lot of water, don't eat animal products, don't eat junk food. Right? It's simple. Like, I know what to eat. It's not easy, especially over the holidays. I'm really proud of the people who joined my group over this year. The people in my current group are here for the American Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, all the winter holidays, and it finishes on New Year's.
Wow.
Those people are motivated, right?
Right.
But the emotional side shouldn't be ignored. But I always tell people, the higher your stress is, the more important your diet is going to be. You know, because some people think the other way. Oh, well, if I'm depressed, I'm going to be inflamed. I might as well eat what I want. No, you really need your diet to support you as much as possible. So self-care, like exercise and doing things that are fun just because they are, right? Cleaning your floor is not self-care. I don't care how proud you are of it. Going for a bike ride, taking a long bath, doing some, social activities, things like that help you feel good every day, and making sure your diet's not inflammatory. So yes, having the green smoothie for breakfast instead of the eggs and bacon, that will change your health. But, I always tell people, start where you can. And anyone who follows Goodbye Lupus on Instagram sees that, like, as much as I put in videos about diet, I put a lot every day that's about self-care and your emotional health. Because one, your emotional health, if you're healthy there, you heal faster. Look at me. I was already happy and grateful. Changed my diet, gone. It was gone, right? Other folks that I have in the same situation, they're the same way. They like their lives. They like their partner. They just happen to be sick. We changed the diet. I had somebody in my rapid recovery, 2 weeks. She was symptom-free from lupus. Wow. Great relationship, lived at the beach in California. Wow. Changed the diet, gone. And then there's everyone else, where we have to work on all the aspects, learning how to be loving towards yourself, understanding that food actually is love, but not the way you were taught. It doesn't love yourself to poison yourself. Loving yourself is giving your cells what they need, drinking water and eating your salads and your smoothies and all that stuff. Learning to actually love yourself, give yourself time for your own happiness every day, giving yourself time to sleep every night. That if you do those things, and even after decades of illness, your body can get healthy again.
Right. I completely, I'm with you on that. Now, you mentioned something about flax and chia seeds. And I know, I get it. And I understand that they are omega-3s, but why are they so important? And I know I've seen one of your videos where you had mentioned, take a half a cup in your spinach smoothie. So I'm wondering, why is it so much? And how does that affect, your body in healing?
All right. So
Sorry, it's a loaded question.
Oh, no, I mean, it's not loaded, but there's a lot of different areas. And it's why I have a whole section of my classes in my book where I actually show you the chemical pathways. That I think is helpful visually to see it. So there's multiple reasons. The first one is omega-3 fatty acids are supposed to be a part of your cellular membrane. So every one of us is made of cells, right? And on the inside of our cells is all water soluble stuff, right? Okay. Then we have a membrane around each cell that has fats in it, right? To keep, and one side of it dissolves, it's called a phospholipid. It's fat on the outside, water dissolvable on the inside. And that's so we don't dissolve. Because if we didn't have those fatty membranes around our cells, we would just dissolve. Like we'd get wet and then we'd be a puddle ourselves. So there's these fatty membranes, okay? Now, one of the fats that are important in that membrane is supposed to be omega-3 fatty acids. Now, typically, if we went back to like tribal humanity, where we were walking around through the forest, we would be eating mostly things that grow on trees and bushes, right? Because that's what we did, right? Mostly green stuff, because when you look around, everything's mostly green, right? And then occasionally you're like, oh my God, a fruit tree, and then you'd eat some fruit, right? Like, but you don't walk around and see fruit everywhere you look, right? It's green. Right?
It's green.
Greens and vegetables and greens, and then ooh, bananas, right? And then so we were doing that. We would actually have a really good balance of omega-3 to omega-6. As I was talking about those two parts of the immune system, because there's actually some omega-3s even in greens, but a little bit. All right. And those omega-3 fatty acids, though, when they're a part of our cell membranes, they make our membrane very flexible and receptive to signaling. So we have a nice flexible membrane that can do like a catcher's mitt. I always think of it, right? Like it can squeeze. So if there's a signal that comes along and this signal says, I've been working out like crazy, I want to lose fat, the signal comes and the catcher's mitt catches it and it releases fat. Another signal comes along, we have some inflammation to repair, I'd like you to repair it, it catches it, it does the job. Most people nowadays don't really eat omega-3 sources. They're not eating leafy greens, they're not eating any, and flax and chia seeds have the highest dose of omega-3s in the plant world that you can find. They are primarily omega-3. So I use those as a rapid way of replacing it, right? So if you don't have omega-3s, your body uses the second best, which would be omega-6. Omega-6 is in meat, dairy, oils, processed foods. So in most people's diet, constant, right? So their cells are full of omega-6 instead. Now, omega-6 makes a cell stiff. If the cell is stiff, signals that come along will bounce off and never be received, and toxins get trapped inside as well. With the omega-3s in there, toxins can leave. But when it's a stiff, hard membrane, toxins stay trapped inside, nutrients can't get in, signals can't dock. And now again, you have a sick cell. It's getting poisoned with toxins. It can't get nutrition. It can't get any of the results. And so therefore, you're not going to be able to move forward, not going to get healthy, right? That's number one. Number two, because of that, you create a faster metabolism. Metabolism, my husband's whole book is about this. Metabolism is about your body's ability to change. People think high metabolism means you're skinny. Not really. Some skinny people have a low metabolism. Your body's ability to change. So if you get sick, how quickly do you heal? If you get an injury, how long are you limping around on the injury? Some people I see with autoimmune disease, their first symptom was not being able to heal a sprain or something. That, you know, they're slow to heal, right? They can't heal an open wound. It's taking forever. So that and metabolism also reflects how quickly can you lose fat if you want to, how quickly can you gain muscle if you want to. If you're skinny and can't gain muscle, you have a slow metabolism. You can't change, right? Very interesting concept. My husband did all this work to define it, and it's very cool. And then the third part, which is essential to my work, is the omega-3s create your anti-inflammatory immune system. So if you are constantly eating omega-6 fatty acids, you've got plenty of inflammation being brought by that. If you don't eat omega-3s or enough of them to balance the omega-6, you won't have an anti-inflammatory immune system to fix all the damage. Because the anti-inflammatory immune system is like when contractors come in your house to fix something, they leave a mess. Right. Someone has to clean the mess, right? The anti-inflammatory immune system is to clean the mess, and it's not happening, and the mess is building up, and it's horrible, right? So most Americans and people around the world have very unbalanced immune systems. They've done research to suggest that maybe we should have between a 9-to-1 to a 1-to-1 ratio of 6-to-3. At the time they did this research, probably 15 years ago, they found Americans typically had a 40-to-1 ratio, 40-to-1. I have seen patients that had a 200-to-1.
Wow.
So I use flax and chia seeds because they are primarily a source of omega-3s, and I'm trying to hyper-nourish you with high doses of omega-3 to get your anti-inflammatory immune system to catch up, to get your metabolism to catch up, to get your cells to detoxify, release those toxins and take in the nutrients. And quickly it happens. People's cells start integrating the new omega-3s and they start to feel differently. And if you can stop eating the omega-6 foods, if you stop eating inflammatory foods, you'll get better that much faster. Because otherwise it's like, if you had a leak, if you had a flood in your bathroom being caused by the faucet being on, the faucet is the omega-6, right? So the faucet is flowing. And if you're only having a little bit of omega-3 or whatever, it's like mopping while the faucet's running. You're going to
Right.
clean up some of the water, but it's never going to fully be done. But if you
Right.
stop, if you turn off the faucet and stop eating the inflammatory foods, let the omega-3s do their job, they're going to dry up the whole building. Everything's going to be better. So I
Right.
like to do, that's why I get such rapid results with people. The omega-3 component is essential to that. And a lot of people
Okay.
eating on plant-based diets are missing that, and they don't get a full recovery till they add it.
That is awesome. And now it actually makes more sense into why they heal faster, because you keep hearing about omega-3s being very, very good for your body. So really quickly now, I mean, you've been doing this for quite some time now. What have you learned from your journey? I mean, other than and how has that made you into what you believe is your journey in your life in this day and age or today?
Everything I've ever been through in my life has come into play in what I do now. And I think it's such an important lesson for all of us that while things are happening to us, we often have no concept as of why, right? As to why. And I remember wondering that at the time when I was sick at 16. I was getting chemo and all this stuff. And I had a well-meaning teacher tell me once that God lets good people suffer so others can learn compassion. And I was pissed at him because I was like, I'm not here to make other people learn how to be nice or care about
Right.
people. It didn't resonate with me. And
Right.
I don't think that actually was the reason. The truth is none of us know the reasons for why we go through what we do, but we can learn from those things. And if we can learn the lessons, and most importantly, if we can get through it, because we got to fight through it. We don't choose the battles we face, but we choose whether or not we fight or we lay down. And for me, laying down's never been an option.
Right.
So everything I've ever been through is essential to what I do now. Everything from learning how to find positivity and joy and purpose while sick. I teach that. The genetic research that I did and truly understanding cellular biology and all the things I had to learn was essential to me understanding my diet and what happened to me. Deciding to go into psychiatry and really getting a mastery of helping people overcome pain and depression and trauma. I use that. Learning how to change my diet and reverse my disease. I know how to do it. I've been there and I know how hard it is and I know how to help people get through that. And I use that. Everything that I've ever been through is so important to every gift that I give to this day. And so I'm also grateful, tremendously grateful for all of it, including my illness. I'm so grateful I had lupus because had I not, I'd still be a nerd somewhere doing some nerdy work. I know that. But I wouldn't be able to give the gift I give now, which is truly, I mean, talk about saving lives. I don't just save lives, but I give people their life back. They're able to live not only with health, but with passion and happiness. People tell me after they work with me, it's the first time in their life that they've released anxiety and they feel happiness in their hearts. And, you know, I had somebody recently, he was a 73-year-old man who joined my group. And he told us after the group, he said it's the first time in his life he's ever felt happiness. And he had been planning to kill himself. It didn't work for him.
Oh, no.
And he reversed his disease. He had no platelets, and because of an autoimmune disease, and his platelets were normal at the end of the group. But he was happy, and he was planning his future. And I know, I cry every day. I cry every day on this journey with people. But all of it is a gift to me. All the lives that I get to be a part of. You know, the children, I have 2 children I'm working with now that are 11 years old, 12 years old. Like, to be a part of their lives and help teach them a better way where they can have great health, live their passion and purpose.
Right.
And have happiness every step of the way, even while they're sick. It gives me the greatest joy. And so I'm grateful for the whole journey every single day and the way that I get to be a part of other people's lives. It gives me endless meaning.
No, I think it's so beautiful. And I love the way that, you know, you're always willing to give, you know, even, you know, you have the books out there, you have your classes, but yet you still give these free classes. I find you very inspirational. I watch you, I get inspired and I want to do something. I want to do more for my body too, because everyone, you know, we're all looking for the best health possible so that we can be better people for our families, as well as for our, you know, for work, for our friends. Now, if there was someone with autoimmune disease, you know, how would they be able to work with you? Like, how would you go about, you know, explaining how they would go about getting in touch with you?
Okay. So like I said, I mean, I know there's people all over the world who, you know, can't afford to have appointments and things. And that's why I teach my classes for free. My classes are based off my books, but I
Right.
wanted a way to teach the information because this should be a right that everybody has. Health should be a right. It shouldn't be that you have to pay a certain price to find out the secret. So I don't hold anything back in my free classes.
Right.
And it's also why I do my free Q&As. Whenever I have a break between groups, I do live Q&As, as many as I can, for the public for free. So I always recommend people, do that when you can or if you can. But if you want to work with me directly, that's my favorite thing to do, is take care of people. So if you go to my website, goodbyelupus.com, it's called Goodbye Lupus because that was my journey, but I help people with all sorts of different illnesses. You can make an appointment there. You can, there's free gifts there at goodbyelupus.com where you can get videos of me making smoothies and telling my story and all that kind of stuff, recipes, stuff like that. But you can also click work with Dr. G, and I do appointments. My appointments are a minimum of 75 minutes. I need to get to know you, hear your story, connect with you. We cry together, we plan together, we do that, versus like my programs, which are rapid recovery, where you actually have to like work with me every day. It's like an overbearing Jewish mother every day. What did you eat? How did you sleep? How's your mood? Did you do your self-care? How's your husband? What are we doing? Yeah, I mean, every day. So there's many different ways to work with me for people who really know that they want that level of support, and then everything in between, from free to like the books or other things. I do as much as I can to help as many people as I can. But I love it. I love when people work with me. I put my heart and soul into my programs. It's the best.
Oh, I do. I see it every day. I watch you. I watch you on YouTube. I watch you on Instagram. Right away, I felt like she's this amazing doctor who's just on this mission to help everybody. And I can't thank you enough for coming on our show today, Dr. Goldner. You have been a light and inspiration for me, and I'm sure for like thousands and thousands of people who watch you on a daily basis. So thank you so much for your time and coming on our show today.
It's my pleasure. You never know who needed to hear your voice on a given day. So I always say yes. And I appreciate you and all the folks like you who are doing podcasts and doing this stuff, because, because of you, there might be someone's life who was saved, who just happened to, who had no idea about me, but they're a huge fan of yours, right? Yeah. And then their disease goes away. I really appreciate it. And it's always worth my time to connect with people and to share the story and share the help. So thank you for inviting me over here.
Thanks again. And hopefully we'll talk again very soon.
It'd be my pleasure. I thank you.
Take care.